Hi, I'm Cathie Allan and I'm here in the Clearsnap booth at CHA, and we are sharing this beautiful technique here in the booth. We are doing a full watercolor with pigment ink, and it is done without any water in sight. So we're going to be completing this beautiful card. And of course the inside is done with that beautiful technique as well. And of course all the people that are here, and after you watch this little video, you will also be able to take that and do it larger, whether it's a scrapbook page or an art journal page. This may be a technique you would like to try. I'm going to teach you a technique. We're going to finish it as a card. But of course, if you're an art journaler and you want to say to me right now, I don't do cards, I just do art journals, do this in your art journal. If you're a scrapbooker and you don't make cards and you don't do art journals, then do it in your scrapbook. The technique is important, the project is just a byproduct. Okay, that's all. It's just a vehicle for me to teach you a technique. Anyway, what we're going to play with is pigment ink. Over the years, I found the reason why I've gone to pigment ink. Why? Number one, it's the most light fast. I love that I can make it, like I've got projects from 30 years ago and they look as bright as the day I made it. Okay, that's important. But not only that, it's because it multitasks. It is a medium that wants to do resist. It wants to play like oil paint so I can blend it. It wants to emboss. There's so many things I can do with pigment ink, and I love sharing that, especially with new stampers, because they don't have to have a ton of product. They can have a couple of colors of pigment ink, a great stamp, and I can show them how to create a lot of beautiful products with those three things. Normally, like we're going to be using, these are their newer colors. I can't even tell you how many projects I've done with these few colors, okay? I love them. We're going to start playing, and what we're going to do is a full watercolor technique using pigment ink. So this is a great stamp, and what we're going to do is I want you to first ink that stamp using your buttercup, and I want you to get a good amount of ink on that stamp, okay? The raised, if you're a new stamper, you just need to ink the raised part of the image. You don't have to ink the recessed part or the wood. Okay, all you need to do is get a good amount of stamp on there, and then I want you to stamp it on one of your circles. Put one of your circles away, we're only working on one. And I want you to ink it each time you stamp it, so you're going to ink and stamp, and you're going to go from this to this. So I want you to use, and notice I kept them in groups. I have 2 over here and 4 down here. Keep it in a group. We're going to have a group over here, and notice that they go beyond the edges. Don't try and make the whole stamp stay on the page. Okay, so you're going to end up with a project that looks like this. Good.
Enough, or
if you want more, you can have more. Now I want you to pick up your stylus that's got foam tips on the end. Who hasn't used these before? Okay, everybody else has used a stylus before. I always refer to them as my paintbrush for my stamp pad. I'm going to give you that. Okay, and you use the foam tips over and over and over again. Basically, if you haven't used them before, they're a press off and a snap on. Okay, and so they're interchangeable. So you end up, this is like your paintbrush for your stamp pad. But we do have a top boss pad, and I end up with 2 clear top boss pads. Top boss pads multitask like crazy. Right now we're not using it as an embossing, we're using it to stretch the color. Okay, so it's going to stretch the color. Now what I want you to do is take that foam tip that's loaded with top boss and pull that ink. Basically just smear that ink out. Okay, and you'll see it's going to pull it, it's going to smear it, it's going to push it into the background. So you can see, and just around the images, leave some white space, right? We don't want to fill it up. So just in and around. This is pretty all by itself. Isn't that nice as the pattern recedes?
yeah,
If you want a little more yellow, you can take that same and dip it in there and pick it up and smear a little bit more. Even though, yeah, same one. Same one. What did I do? I need student participation. What do you do?
Oh, you stamped it?
Same stamp. I cleaned it off a little bit with the baby wipe. Remember, pigment ink is water-based. You don't need a special cleaner for it. You could just clean it off with water. And so long as you use a baby wipe that is alcohol-free, you can clean it with that. But you're going to stamp that image using the hyacinth, okay, the purple. And notice I simply stamped a couple of images on one side and a couple on the other. And you're going to do the same thing. What are you going to do after you stamp them? Going to go to here. So you're going to go from here to here. So stamp those images, then take another foam tip, right? And that the first one's going to be saved for yellow. Second one's going to be saved for purple. Every time you do this technique with a different stamp, it's way fun. You never get tired of it, which now means you can have 1 million stamps and do 1 million different pages and be happy forever. Two colors together, how well they're blending together because we've added the top boss and it's pigment ink. So there's no harsh stops and starts between the colors. You can get that beautiful flow of color. You look like somebody who's been doing this for years and this is the first time you've sat down to do it. And it's the medium that's allowing you to do this. It's so forgiving. I do this with a 3-year-old red-headed little grandson. One more level. Add some, another level. This is the darkest level, which is so nice. And look at what happens when you blend it out. Look at the background. But there's nothing wrong with this either, is there? So you got two choices. This is what you're gonna do. Look at this one. Isn't that beautiful all by itself? Yes. But when you blend it out, look what happens. Could you stop here? Definitely. Absolutely. So now we have the yellow smeared. We have the yellow with the purple smeared. Mm-hmm. Now we could have this background with the green on top, and then we could have a fourth one where we smeared it. When your heart gets happy with the stamping, that's when you stop. There you go. And remember to ink it each and every time. Now think of doing this with maybe a solid daisy. I'm kind of a daisy goof, okay? Any of those solid images, think of the layers you could add here. Because we're smearing it with a loaded top boss and not adding too much ink, it really is forcing it into the background and giving you a gorgeous watercolor look without water. So now what we're going to do after that, we're going to iron. I need that ink heat set. A lot of people think you can heat set pigment ink with a heat gun. It doesn't work so good. Okay, it just does the surface. We want it dry all the way through. That's why we have these handy dandy, very hot irons. Okay, very close to you. You're going to take a piece of paper, make sure it's clean. You just want to make sure that the scrap paper you're using is clean. Set it on top and iron for about that long. I've never counted. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I counted. So that was 4. I always like to turn it over and iron it once from the back side because I like it to curl the other way. So you just want to make sure no ink transferred, which is good, and now we're going to do it again. Okay? Here we've got an India ink pad. I've been doing lots with it and I'm loving it. It's drying really quickly for me. Okay? Even on altered surfaces, it's drying very quickly. That's very important to me, okay? Because that surface is altered. So what I want you to do is use the other two stamps you have at your table. This is how I stamped mine. You don't have to stamp them exactly like that. If you want your beautiful to go on an angle, go ahead. But you're going to stamp that maidenhair fern once, and you're going to stamp Be-You-tiful beside it. So you're just going to use that India ink stamp pad, ink your stamps, and stamp them on your custom-made background. So once you get both those images on, now we're going to add color, but we're not going to use markers. We're thinking we've got a new stamper. She just bought stamp pads. She just bought a couple of stamps. Does she have any money for markers? No. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our stamp pads. So we're going to use our stamp pads to add color. You should have an applicator. That's a smooch accent tip. Now, the other reason you need a re-inker is because we want to dip into it like a well. I want you to take that hyacinth re-inker and I want you to put a daub like that on top of your stamp pad. Okay? Because we're going to dip into this to add color. And then we're going to use so little. So very little. I'm going to pick up some of the ink, I'm going to roll it in there and roll it off so it looks
We're just gonna like lay it on?
Yep, that's all you can do is lay it on top, and you're going to be able to dip it in. And watch what I'm going to do. I'm not going to have to put on a whole lot of ink here. All I'm going to do is trace the top, but look at how little of ink I put on there. Now I can take the cotton swab and smear it. If it doesn't go as far as I want it to go, I'm going to add more ink, or what else could I do?
Can we add water?
No. This is a really fluffy cotton swab, so I'm going to get rid of some of this. This thing is like huge. And so I'm going to put Top Boss ink on here, and I'm going to pull it with that. You can pull it with this. So look at how we're adding color now, and very little of the color, and just smearing it out with our cotton swab, okay? So add a little bit, and it just needs a touch. So when you're done coloring your ink, you could just let this sit and dry depending on how much you ink, but instantly you want to dry now. I'm not very good at waiting for stuff to dry. I just iron it. And it's easy to iron in your art journal book as well. Now we're just going, the other thing that we're going to add is a ribbon. You're going to take, I'm going to use green, lay it on the stamp pad like this, pick up some ink, and make that ribbon green.
And then we're gonna heat it.
Do it on both sides and then iron it, and iron it well. When you change the color of light color ribbons with pigment ink, your ribbon will stay soft. I do it with fluid chalk as well. Because it's water-based, it makes the ribbon stiffer. But with pigment ink, it does stay soft. And you can see when you do it, when you pick it up and you work it right on that stamp pad, you're actually doing both sides at the same time. Now, because pigment ink is very stable, guess what you can do? If you have a thick ribbon, you can have one side green and the other side purple, right? So you just get one of those, there's lots of ribbons out there that are thicker. They are beautiful to do like double-sided. So just put it under here and just iron it. And I always put a piece of paper over top of whatever I'm ironing, just to keep the iron clean. Not that it's ever going to see clothing. And you can see how much ink is transferring to the paper. What I want to do is you guys have got tape runners. I'm a huge fan of the Zhuang tape, so it's already got adhesive on the edge. Now we also have a ruler. So what you want to do is I'm going to put my ruler on there where I want to have my adhesive, but you want to put it in the back, and you want to make sure that your beautiful is straight. Yes. Unless you don't care. Is that fine? If you wanted that at an angle, would that be fine? Mm-hmm. Exactly. So sometimes I tell people just do it at an angle. But what you're going to do is set your ruler. You want at least, what's that, about 3/4 of an inch, do you think? You want about 3/4 of an inch of that, the side of the circle, so you can put adhesive on it. So you're going to set your ruler on like that, and then I simply want you to turn it over and draw a line on the back. Okay, got it? At the top and the bottom of your line, I want you to punch on the edge. And the reason you're punching on the edge so that when you add your ribbon, it stays there, because if you don't, it just slides off. So your ribbon will stay secure like so. All right, so you're just going to clip it at the top and the bottom of your pencil line using the hole punch that is there. And you can tie your ribbon on, and then of course you're going to put adhesive on this panel and stick it to your other circle. All right, you want to get ooh here, and the idea is to get ah on the inside.